back in the
Greetings, everybody, and welcome to episode 24. Jim Sullivan, the mysterious first album, U.F.O, and also titled Jim Sullivan. More on that later. If you haven't heard of Jim Sullivan, this is kind of the return of my obscure artist profile. We had Judy Sill 2 episodes ago, and now to somewhat the counterpart to some degree, Jim Sullivan.
I think
Let's just start with Mike.
I think that they're kind of kindred artists, I guess you could say. It's interesting because we went from going into the deep dive with Judy Sill, and by the way, the more I listen to her, I can't stop listening to her. I think that Ridge Rider is beautiful. I just want to put that out there. So I went from Judy Sill, then I got on a Nick Drake kick, I guess because it's sort of that
Uh-huh.
solitary, unappreciated in their time genius thing.
Yep.
And with Nick Drake, you can kind of do that with the 3 albums and kind of dive in for a little bit. So I went down the Nick Drake thing, and then your pick of Jim Sullivan was perfect because I can see a through line between these 3 artists.
Yes. I mean, Jim Sullivan came out in the late 60s. He did have a band in the mid 60s, your classic garage band. It was called the Survivors. I don't believe there's any pressings, even 45s. But he was kind of he's a singer-songwriter. We need to work up an intro here. This is the original cover for U.F.O that was a private press, which means just locally financed by a few believers and is incredibly rare. Later, it was released, also very small release with this cover as Jim Sullivan. And this is the more common one and also has a different song order and it is remixed. But this kind of innocuous cover here was a little more available on Century City Records. Again, essentially a nothing label. So that was this man's start. He kind of, I can't remember where him and his wife lived, but he was kind of popular in different kind of like harbor places. This place called the Raft he would play at, and many local celebrities from Hollywood and stuff kind of attached to him. And it was kind of a lot of partying going on. Jim was kind of a partier. He really has this Jim Belushi feel to him and look, and he would just play live, and it was just kind of he probably had a nightly or played every night or weekly, and eventually Dennis Hopper befriended him and put him in Easy Rider, the place when they're in the commune, when they show the 360 shot and they show everyone in the commune. He's actually one of the people in there, and he's uncredited, but that was his big movie pick. But to get back to the full story of him, maybe we should draw out the story. But Mike, I think actually turned me on to Easy Rider in high school, I believe.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, big time.
I forgot that. I don't know why. I don't know why I knew about it before you did. I don't know what possessed me to watch it.
Maybe music related. I don't know. Did you know Phil Spector is the cocaine dealer in the beginning?
I
At the
see.
very beginning, which is interesting, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Phil Spector, the amazing thing about this recording, about this first album that we're just going to call U.F.O, is that even though this was truly a private press and then barely released even more on a serious pressing level, this had the Wrecking Crew on it. So the Wrecking Crew is musicians, session musicians, professionals that worked with Phil Spector, notably, and were actually phantom musicians for many popular bands. I think the Byrds, Beach Boys, many things. So literally some of the best players that exist are playing with Jim Sullivan on his nothing release, self-financed, going nowhere, but we believe in him album. And I can't help but think, I feel like it's a Judy Sill here because I feel like there's no commerciality, if that's a word.
I think you just
It's
made a
not
word.
commercial.
No,
Commerciability.
I
Okay.
would I would call it a slow grower. Like the first couple of times I
Yep.
listened to it, I was like, okay, it kind of has like a Kenny Rogers meets like the song UFOs almost sounds like America, the band, a little bit. Uh
Sure.
the arrangements though, I think that was what first drew me in after three or four listens. Is like I realize how complex and lush and beautiful the arrangements are, and I guess it's partly the band, the Wrecking Crew. Just you could
Mm-hmm.
tell that they're really stretching themselves and doing some pretty innovative stuff for 1969. But
Yeah.
there's like the song UFO. I mean, you've got the trumpet and the flutes and the strings, and it's just a gorgeous piece of music.
Yeah. On some of those tracks, I think it says like 27 musicians. It's like, how? How? Like, how? No, 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 seriously. Like, that's the whole thing with this album is that there's no rationale for anything. We haven't even talked about the elephant in the room, which is that this guy is a 39 years to this basically day missing person who has never been discovered. Some people think it was the mob. There was this family in Nevada. I'm getting way ahead of myself, but the truth is that nothing adds up. We there are no pieces that fit the puzzle here.
Or
We have
did
someone producing a 27 session musician Wrecking Crew album that was barely put out in Easy Rider with Phil Spector. And I'm going to go full blown conspiracy here. He owes money to Phil Spector or something. And something makes no sense. And this is, I'm not telling the normal story here. The normal story has been printed a million times, but nothing with Jim Sullivan makes sense.
so
Nothing.
what you're saying is it's possible did he leave by UFO?
The popular story that people love to tell is that Jim Sullivan kind of was a self-fulfilling prophecy. After he made a second album, which was for his biggest label ever, which was Playboy Records. Again, very strange. I have a copy and it's original. It's a great little album too. When he went missing in New Mexico, he had 25 to 40 copies of this in his car because he was headed to Nashville, which makes sense, mid 70s. His career is kind of winding down, but this is not one from Jim Sullivan because I have the person's address on it.
But yeah,
But here, this is a copy.
he was
If you've
driving
never
to
seen a Playboy
to
record sleeve,
Nashville.
this is a Playboy record sleeve, actual label. Makes no sense. He was driving in Nashville by himself, VW bus, I believe.
Hmm.
Apparently, there's so many rumors. I don't want to get into all the rumors, but they never found his body. And it would seem that when you really dissect this album, which I'd like to, it's just bizarre because my big problem with this one that we did, UFO, which is the better one, which is the one it's never even been found. It's never even sold. It doesn't exist. It's an enigma in the record label world. It does not exist. My friend found the one with his face on the cover sealed, and it is to this day the highest reported sale of that album. But these things don't happen. That you cannot find a Jim Sullivan album. If you think Judy Sill is rare, oh no. Oh no, 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 no. So much rarer, in my opinion. Like I've seen Judy Sill. Jim Sullivan, I have a reissue, and I'm happy to have that.
Yeah.
I mean, so this album starts off with it's like the second release, the B side should be the A side. But
Okay.
in this one, the A side starts off with Jerome. What is Jerome?
Town in
Jerome is a
Arizona.
ghost. Jerome is a ghost town in Arizona. Now he went missing in New Mexico, in Santa Rosa, New Mexico, actually, near Roswell and all that. But I mean, it's this opening song. You think it's about a person or something, and then you find out it's about this actual like mining boom town that went ghost town. And how weird is Jerome, Arizona? Oh, it's very weird. Let's just say that Maynard James Keene has a store there. It's that weird.
What
It's
kind of
that weird.
store?
It's named after his one band, not Tool,
Okay.
and it's oddities and art because it's Maynard James Keene. Um, okay, I gotta ground this level of this episode a little bit, but I mean, we might have to have a two-part. We're on the first song here. I'm glad you knew that it was about a town in Arizona. Um,
Well, I only know about Jerome because of Kate Wolf. She has a song called Old Jerome.
okay. Okay. I wonder what the reference is there. I mean, it seems like even that song from the start, from the first song in his first album, it's about, uh peyote, I'm gonna assume. Um, it's a place where people would go and they would literally drop out. And that's how this man is starting his introduction to the world. So you can understand how he left this world a lot more when you understand the beginning.
Hmm.
It seems like if there was a someone that was as an ethereal of a songwriter and spirit, because this guy really, when people liked him and saw him play, they loved him. And they didn't like any of these albums. No one liked his albums. They were
Hmm.
like, that's not Jim Sullivan. Like, why do they have those strings? Why do they have those beautiful, lush things on there?
Yeah.
That's not him.
Hmm.
And that just sounds so bizarre because you're absolutely right. This album it is a Nick Drake adjacent album.
Hmm.
It does elicit feelings like Judy Sills, who I was listening to the other day, and that B side of that album is just you're absolutely right. I mean, it's what I needed yesterday, and it was just amazing. It's absolutely. I mean, ugh, some of the tones on this album and little funny intro things and strings and stuff. These musicians, even though they're not really given credit for it, because his fan base just wanted him with a guitar and a glass of whiskey at the raft, but it is beautiful. But
It
this
is.
that recording, this album doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
Now, what do you mean by that?
I mean, I don't know how many were pressed, 500, 1,000,
You're
but you
talking
can't
about
find them.
you're talking about the original.
Yeah, I'm talking about it looks like this, only it has a white cover, not like pink.
Uh,
And it's called Jim Sullivan U.F.O. It's on Money Records, Monnie. And the guy who sprung to put it out um, was a guy who wanted to be an actor and he loved Jim and he saw Jim night after night and he's like he's going to be huge and he self-produced it, which ruined him, but he was a cue card holder because he couldn't make it as an actor. But everyone that knew Jim believed in him, you know?
I really appreciate his expression on the cover. Let me just say that. I really enjoy the cover art. It,
Yeah.
it's suitably mysterious.
Well, yeah, I mean, you should look at this. I think he's at the raft here, but he has like his own table and he has this glass of whiskey there.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what's on that. Oh, here we go. Here's another classic Jim, like,
Mm.
you'll be able to see him in Easy Rider now.
Yeah.
On this
Well,
actually is a pullout, so it's pretty cool.
okay. Hey,
Yeah, really neat, actually.
talking
It's
about
just
the
still there. Pull it out.
talking about the music, it is pretty out there. Like some of the songs, like Johnny. Johnny sounds like something that would be on like a '90s alternative throwback album, like one of those like songs with like the loops and the samples and stuff. Like it is wild. The drums on this album, I don't know who's playing them, but some of it even sounds like break beats. And I'm like, this was the '60s. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's there was three main Wrecking Crew guys, and I mean, I'm sorry I don't have his name, but yeah, it's probably literally one of the top three drummers in the world, and that's including jazz.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you
So
could tell he's really stretching it out and trying some interesting stuff.
yeah, so I mean, how did all this happen? How did back in this time, like people they wouldn't work for free. How was all this afforded only to be put out like as literally like the same equivalent of like a small town punk record?
Yeah. Well,
So
what other songs stand out for you, Casey?
for me, there's a triple that is on the other album, I believe the second, third, and fourth song. But on this album, on the first release, and the original one, the one we're talking about today, it's on the second side, and it's oh, I can't even remember the first one.
Highways.
U.F.O. So now, what's that?
Highways.
Highways. Yeah, all these songs of self-fulfilling prophecy. Highways, U.F.O., and So Natural, which it just sounds like. So I should give a clear statement of the end of Jim's life. We don't know what happened to him. He is still to this day an FBI missing person. Many people think he went out in the desert drunk and died. People think that the a mob family who did encounter him that night killed him and took his remains. And then the third very popular belief is that he was abducted by a UFO. So all three of these things have their unlikeliness and likeliness. He was pulled over by police. He was noted as being intoxicated, but not inebriated. Now this is the late 60s, but he did check into a motel in Santa Rosa. He did leave the motel. There's many other things. This whole reissue I have has lots of that like discussion, but yeah, those three songs which are buried in the original press, but I mean they just I mean Highways, it just I often liken him to D Boone. He's a larger man, and D Boone also had his accident in Arizona or New Mexico. And a lot of people equate that area with strange. You know, if you've ever been to Sedona, Arizona, you'll know
The vortex.
there's crystal places everywhere. People are like into cosmic stuff
Yeah, yeah.
more than they should be. They are tampering with things they should not be tampering with. So I think Jim was just a straight class class guy that didn't know how to do anything else besides play guitar and pour his emotions out night after night, and the people just loved him for it. And he had life got harder for him. He had kids. He had a second kid. He's like, "This is it. I'm going to take my last crack." And he packed up 40 records and headed east. And I think in his mind, I think these songs that he sang every night became a self-fulfilling prophecy. He wanted to go out on the highway. He wanted to be known as being taken by a UFO. And, he looked so natural, which I later found out one of the most beautiful songs is actually, again, an incredibly painful song. He came from a big family. His wife came from a big family. And it was about his wife's oldest brother who had a family and just died of a heart attack very young. And that's what the song is about. So natural. It's not about himself. It's about like, wow, look at this guy. He looks so natural. And then he just dropped dead.
Yeah.
It's it's a lot, you know.
Quite a three-song cycle there.
It is. And it's this episode's been pretty scattered, but I've been in a scattered mental state myself. But it's good to just kind of throw darts here because this is probably better left as one of those episodes that some people might go, "Holy cow!" And then other people are going to be like, "Where's the cohesive narrative?" Because there's
Well,
not,
it's a
there's not a
mysterious
cohesive narrative.
it's a mysterious album of an underappreciated artist who's kind of just seeing the light of day in the streaming era. And I think that maybe someone who's listening to this will give this album a shot in the same way that you got me to listen. I mean, I certainly had not heard of it before.
Yeah.
So here's a connection for you. Judy Sill's music is kind of sneaky Christian. Tell me,
Right.
do you think UFO is a sneaky Christian song? Have you,
Ooh.
do you think it's about Jesus?
Um,
Let
I
me
have the lyrics.
let me recite some lyrics for you, Casey. A lot of
Okay. Okay.
a
You already
lot
got.
a lot of tricks were pulled in a book I read. Only man I know that got up from the dead. A lot of people living by the words that he said. Think he'll come again a different way. Maybe he has come and gone while I was away. Too much goodness is a sin today. There's something happening that isn't too clear, just a little different than in previous years. I think that happiness is getting very near. So he's checking out the show, looking at the sun dancing through the sky. Did he come by UFO?
I mean, you could interpret. It's obviously it's the song because it's the song that led to his legacy of like, hey, this is what happened. And he forgot the line with the glassy eye, which I always find interesting. Was
It is.
checking out the show with the glassy eye. I don't know. I mean, this guy also he wrote songs like he was a guitar player. He wrote songs by just kind of writing them.
Yeah.
And I think what you're hitting on opens up a bigger topic of which is where do songs come from?
hmm
Um, you know,
I,
we
what
don't know.
what I appreciate most about this, and I really do like it. Like I said, it took a little while, took a few listens.
Yeah,
What I really
it
like about
should.
what I really like about this is it does grow on you, and
Yes.
it retains an element of mystery that is very appealing.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I mean, this is a part of the Topanga Canyon. This is a part of that scene. This is a part of the Joni Mitchell and Judy Sill scene and the
Uh-huh.
Eagles and all that. This
Yeah.
of the birds. This is a part of that scene. Like, could you imagine this time of like these people hung out, you know? These people, this is almost like the punk community of like the early 90s in the Bay Area. Like these people saw each other, you know. I would actually love to research like who he played with because I feel like he just played at the bar, which is just insane. But he had this like he had this group around him that loved him, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine even knowing Dennis Hopper in 69?
Well, the other thing I will
Dennis
say
Hopper
about
was wild,
the only last thing I
wild.
want to say about this album is that somebody owes his family or whoever a lot of royalties because he wrote the melody of Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer right here with Rosie. It's the same melody. I messaged you that when I first heard it. Maybe that song was first, but my goodness. And that is a cool, cool song.
I haven't really
Rosie.
checked the Spotify stats on him, but I really want to now.
I'm,
I don't hear it, but I believe you, obviously.
to be clear, I'm
Um,
talking about Rosie being a really cool song. The other one is Bollocks.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's funny. I want to see what's even available for streaming. U.F.O is almost 6 million, and the closest second is Sandman at 2.5, which is a great song.
Yeah. Those are
Uh,
pretty
it's a
respectable
little
numbers.
strange, but what's that?
Those are pretty respectable numbers for a hidden musician like him.
Yeah. Yeah, oddly enough, I mean, Spotify ranks by popularity, so by recent plays. Oddly enough, the fourth on here is really, 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 really low, 112,000, and it's from his second album, and it's just called "I'll Be Here," which isn't ringing a bell yet. But I do highly recommend you listen to the second album. Um, it is more stripped down. It doesn't have, it's kind of like his Pink Moon, you know.
Okay.
Some people really want that, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there was a third album released of, rarities and different remixes and stuff. I don't have that, but I'm really happy to have an original Jim Sullivan, his second album, his true second album, which is called self-titled. His catalog is very confusing, but I would love to find the first one. I don't think I will, no matter how many records I look at. And I don't know which pressing, the first or second pressing of the first album will be, but I won't find it. I've already let one slip through my fingers. Um, but he's just, if I can close with Jim, thoughts on Jim Sullivan. I don't know. I've no closing thoughts.
That's
I've
okay.
nothing to say.
That's all right. Well, do you want me to jump in with my next pick?
I do. I really do. Is this a Halloween pick?
Not Halloween. There is a connection here. I will say there's an alien connection.
Okay, well, that's a good tangent.
Uh, and it's also this is my election pick. So it's election
Okay,
season.
good.
If you're watching this from the other side of election day, boy, I hope things go well. Um, but anyway,
Likewise.
this is my election pick because this is a chance, Casey. This is a chance to dance your way out of your constrictions. This is your chance to pledge allegiance to the funk of the United Funk of
Uh,
Funkadelica.
nice. I think I know. Is it One Nation? Oh
I
yeah.
I have been
Big
wanting to
nice.
cover this album for the longest time. It never quite seemed right. I have to show you a picture of the album cover because not only do I not own it, you can't even stream this. It is weirdly
Uh,
absent from all streaming services. You've
huh.
got a copy on vinyl.
I do. I do. I'm very thankful to have that. I've seen very, very few. Um,
Um,
Most of the focus, oddly enough, gets around Maggot Brain and the first one self-titled, but obviously that's another big one. But you don't see it. You don't see
Yeah.
it.
Well, and they're a pretty interesting band, which we can get into next time, of course. But uh,
Oh yeah.
this is a later period Funkadelic album, and
Mhm.
without Eddie Hazel. So
Right.
that's my little teaser of what's
Hmm.
unique and interesting about this one, other than how hard it is to listen to, and it's one of the best albums of all time.
Yeah. The Spotify cracks.
Well, and it was on Spotify very briefly, and then it vanished again. I
Yeah.
don't know what's up with that,
Huh.
but it's
Huh.
ridiculously good. I'm a huge funk
It
guy.
is. It is.
This is the gold standard. Incredible.
It is. It is. And it's the height of the popularity for Funkadelic, I believe. I think.
I believe it was their
So
biggest seller. So at the whole
well,
George
looking forward
Clinton
to that.
thing, we were like kind of on the like he sort of had that resurgence of popularity when we were getting into music, but I never quite knew what to make of the whole thing. And so, but you've seen them.
Yeah. Uh, no, no,
Oh,
I've never seen Funkadelic or Parliament. To my knowledge, maybe I have.
I thought you saw
Uh,
them at the Tibetan Freedom, but anyway, we could.
no, no,
Okay.
maybe I don't know. I saw Sonic Youth and Pavement and Beck and Smashing Pumpkins and Rage Against the Machine is the scariest thing I ever seen. And then I left while Red Hot Chili Peppers were taking the stage, like everyone left after Rage Against the Machine.
Well, let me leave you with my George Clinton quote about aliens. Are you ready for this?
Yes,
So, to bring it all full circle with Jim Sullivan, you know the song "One Nation Under a Groove," getting down just
yes.
for the funk of it. This was what George Clinton had to say about it. For me, the song was about bringing humanity together because the real problems are going to come when we're dealing with other planets and we have to worry about aliens coming to eat us or blink us with five blinks.
Oh, wow.
So let's come together
Awesome.
in this election season. Let's pledge allegiance to the funk.
Yep. Tell me about it. I can't wait till we're here again doing the next episode and everything is going the way it's going to go and the landslide is going to happen and won't be able to cry when he's being flushed a second time. So,
Well, on that note, hey, that's actually good. There's a lot of scatological humor on this album as well.
oh yes, yes, yep,
Fried ice
a
cream
lot.
is a reality.
Yep. All right. Well, okay, perfect. I love it. Jim Sullivan, first album, whatever it's called, U.F.O. self-titled. Check it out.
Go listen to it.